We are live. This is Coach Arnie. I'm just checking my notes here, so excuse me for 1 second here. I just wanted to pull up one last note here, and on my topic. Yeah. Okay. So this is the Health, Love, and Life Show, and I hope everybody is excited. But we're going to have an interesting talk. I've talked about this before. I'm just using different language, kind of a metaphor. But don't forget to follow me on different social media platforms. You can call or text me anytime with questions, and my phone number is 602-390-9144. There it is. Email me with questions and stuff, and if you want, we'll just set up a time to chat. Sometimes you just need to talk to somebody. So that's what I do. But we're going to talk about a topic tonight, which is centered around fear. And we're going to say, slay the dragons in your life, staring fear in the eyes. Oh, yeah. And so let's learn a little bit about, first of all, fear and how it is holding us back, and what can we do about it? Because fear, I'm looking at my chart here in front of me. I have an emotions chart, and which are real emotions that we all deal with, whether anger, fear, pain, joy, all these things. And fear is right there, number 2, because it's real. Just like somebody comes to me at the gym or out training or in life in general, and they say, my leg hurts. Well, guess what? Their leg hurts. I know it hurts. I'm not going to say it doesn't hurt. That's what my coaches used to tell me. Yeah, that doesn't hurt. And I believed them, believe it or not. But pain is real, and fear is real. But it's how we respond to it, and how we react to it, and how we deal with it. And so let's learn a little bit about these dragons, because it came to mind this weekend. Excuse me, I'm going to take a little sip. It was a little chilly in my house, and so I decided, instead of just turn the heat up, I just made myself a cup of tea. But I had gone down to my favorite place, the Grand Canyon, this past weekend, and we went down to Phantom Ranch. And I normally I just go by myself, unless I'm scheduled something. And so I had the idea. First, I was going to take my videographer. We're going to make some cool videos, and that didn't work out. And then I thought, let me reach out to my friend Greg. And Greg and I had gone a couple of years ago, and he didn't have a good experience. It was a hot day. I allowed him to do some things I shouldn't have done. And he struggled coming up because of the heat and just because it's a Grand Canyon, it's hard. And he really struggled. It was almost terrifying, to be honest with you. And I guess that's why it's the Grand Canyon, and that's why it's an epic adventure, and that's why it's a challenge. But so I reached out to him, and he's been training hard because he wants to go back. And I said, "You ready?" I go, "I've been reading what you're doing." And he goes, "Nah, Coach, I don't think I'm ready." I go, "Okay, no big deal." So I was all ready to go on my own, and which would have been just fine. It would have been a shorter day, kind of like when parents, are showing their kids how to do things like to mow the lawn. If you show your son how to mow the lawn, it's going to take 3 times as long than if you do it yourself. So what do most parents do? They do what my dad did. They do it themselves and kind of brush you aside. God bless them. But it's not what I did. I said, we're going to go at your pace, and let's see if we can slay some dragons. And he goes, all right. And he knows all about slaying dragons because he runs a recovery center for addictions. So he knows all about this. And, but yeah, I jumped the gun there. He called me back the next day and said, "You know what? I've been thinking about it, Coach. I want to do it." I said, "Great." Because it was short notice, literally less than a week. And so we touched base a couple times, and then he literally came to my house early Saturday morning, We headed up to the Grand Canyon. It was 19 degrees when we started. 19 degrees. But it wasn't windy, so it's nice. And we got ready, and we headed down an icy, not too bad. It was not bad at all. It was worse last year. But it was icy and cold. And we warmed up after a little bit of a while. But it was a cold day. I'm going to be honest with you. It was cold. It was nice down at the bottom. We got a little bit warm, not bad. But I didn't take off anything, so. But when we got down the bottom, we talked about the fact that he made it all the way down, feeling pretty good. But even though he's feeling good, he started feeling kind of weird because he just went 10 miles downhill. And if any of you have ever gone 10 miles downhill, you know it's probably not a good feeling. Well, he was feeling a little weird, and he's like thinking, okay, I got to go back up. Kind of a joke we had because a lot of the signs, and he'd been there before, was, going down is optional, coming up is not. So he knew that. And he knew what was ahead of him. So he prepared himself mentally to just grit it out. And he did it without stopping, without stopping. He had to pause, obviously, but he did amazing. And each segment, when we got to Phantom Ranch, I said, we slayed a dragon. We're down here and a good time. You're feeling pretty good. And each time we passed a milestone on the journey, we talked about slaying the dragon in his life that had been kind of wearing on him a little bit for a couple of years. And now after a while, when he was feeling kind of tired, he didn't want to hear too much about slaying dragon. He knew he was going to do it, but I was making a big deal about it. And we had a conversation today, and he feels 100% better about everything. But when you're going through it, it doesn't feel good. See? It doesn't feel good to face your fears. It doesn't feel good to slay those dragons when you're going through it. So what I want to do is talk tonight about a little bit about the dragon, the fears in your life, the insecurities in your life, and how we can face them, how we can turn those into learning opportunities, and how we can stop allowing them to control our lives. Yeah, because see, that's what happens. Fear in our life, these dragons in our life, whether it's a relationship dragon, whether it's a health dragon, whether it's a challenge dragon like the Grand Canyon, or maybe for you, it's, hey, look, this is first of the year. We've done a couple of shows on nutrition and exercise and all this stuff. And it, it's almost the middle of January. And guess what? I know a lot of people, I've gone real slow. This is the first year in a couple of years that I haven't totally worked out my goal board. You know why? Because last year was so crazy that a lot of my goals got kind of messed up. But I've got my main goals, and some of them are from last year. So I'm just going to kind of rework it a little bit. But I'm not all wound up about it. Okay? Because last year was all detailed out, and then all of a sudden, bam, COVID hit, and everything had to get readjusted. I mean, everything. So I don't want you to put unusual expectations on yourself, because that creates anxiety, worry, fear. Okay, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But the point of that is we're getting to we're halfway point of the month, and there's already a vast majority of people are quitting what they started. It's going to take 2 weeks. It's true. In another week, a larger percentage will drop out. Another week, a larger percentage will drop out. By the middle of February, most will have stopped working on their goals. And it may not be their fault. It may be a partner, a child, a job, the economy, a virus. I don't know what does it, but it's something. So we have to build up some emotional muscle, some mental muscle, some strategies on how we're going to deal with these dragons once they pop up in our lives. And so that's what we want to talk about. That's what we're going to talk about. So again, going back to the basics here, fear is insecurity. You know, some people will use insecurity as more intrapersonal, which is internal, okay, and fear as interpersonal, which is outside. To me, it's 6 one way, half a dozen next. The same. Fear is fear. Insecurity is fear. Okay, insecurity is fear. And so let's back up even more. There are only 2 fears. If you've ever been around a little baby, you know this. There's only 2 fears that we're born with. The fear of loud noises. That's how they check a baby's hearing, because he'll respond. Or a fear of falling. Not high places. I used to think it was high places. It's not high places, it's falling. So that's a big fear. It's real. We're born with that. We're born with that fear of falling. That's it. Everything else is learned. And so when you're around children, one of my great lessons that I love to teach individuals is to have a childlike spirit. Meaning that, not to be childish, that's different, but childlike meaning being less fearful, open to try new things, not being afraid of people, things, opportunities. Be childlike about it. Be inquisitive. Be curious. We lose all that. By the time we're teenagers, we lose that curiosity because we don't teach it anymore. And we need to. So those are 2 learned fears. Everything else, 2 real fears. Everything else is learned. So what are the 2 most common fears? The 2 most common dragons in the world. Tell me if I'm wrong. Anybody out there listening right now, you tell me if I'm wrong, because I had 2 great conversations with 2 ladies yesterday. Single ladies, amazing, amazing ladies in relationships. And we were talking about these 2 things, 2 most common fears. I am not enough. Fill in the blanks. I am not enough of whatever it might be. And they both looked at me. One, when we were talking, I could see this little droplet. And I didn't say anything, but it's called a tear, which means she was really thinking about it and it was making her sad. Because it's a real fear. It's a real insecurity. I'm not good enough. It's something, whatever she was thinking about, she wasn't ready to share with me at that point. And that's fine because, I'm not her coach and she's not my client. And if she chooses to go that route, and then I'm assuming she would. But I do want her to think about it. And the second fear is I'm never going to be loved. So whatever we do in life, a lot of times we do silly things for fear of not being loved. And it generally gets us in more trouble because we become performers rather than being ourselves, because it's an insecurity. Interpersonal fear, because we're worried about what other people are thinking about us. Other people are the dragon. And we think the dragon is not going to love us. We think the dragon is going to make fun of us. The dragon is going to torture us. And technically, the dragon is torturing us because we're allowing it to. So those are your two big fears right there. I'm not good enough at whatever that is. I'm not a good enough mom, not a good enough wife, not a good enough lover, I'm not a good enough secretary, I'm not a good enough cook, I'm not a good enough chef, I'm not a good enough carpenter, I'm not a good enough player on the team, I'm not a good enough dad, I'm not a good enough anything. Does that make sense? Or she's not going to love me because my nose is too long, or my hair is too short. I don't have enough hair. I have too much hair. I've got a beard. I don't have a beard. I have a mustache. I'm too short. I'm too tall. I'm too fat. I'm too skinny. Right? Sure. I don't make enough money. I don't have enough nice enough car. We've all been here. We've all been here, and we all deal with it all the time. Some deal with it better than others. But it's real. Those are fears that we've learned through either someone telling us, or now in today's world, good grief, on social media, you see this nonsense all the time. Instagram and Facebook, right? Because all we're seeing there is we're seeing everybody there at their best. I mean, does anybody here put on pictures on Facebook or Instagram of their worst? The worst they look in the day. They get up in the morning and they look like, you know what, right? Unshaven, hair everywhere. That's the picture you put in there, right? I don't think so. Of course not. We're always doing the best. I put on there when I'm doing my epic adventures, man. I'm crossing the green, and there are people going, that guy must be there every day. Right? That's the picture I'm painting, isn't it? And you're out there. Some people are painting it on their boat. Some people are painting it, at some kind of event in the weekend. They're sitting around drinking a glass of wine, because that's what they do. 100% of the time, right? Of course not. Of course not. And so we are creating this picture that we're comparing ourselves to, and it creates massive insecurity, because we all do it. We're all comparing it to that. So those are the two learned fears. So I'm going to give a strategy, then we're going to come back to strategies, because after I give a strategy, I want to talk about how we deal with fear, and then we'll come back to how I think you can deal with fear. So the strategy is slay the dragon. Well, how do you do that? Well, that's a goal, slay the dragon. Well, I like to tell a story about staring the tiger in the eye. I mean, if you ran into a tiger in the jungle, what would you do? Good question, right? Because you think, well, I could run. If I saw a tiger in the jungle, man, I'm going to take off running. Now, that might work. It might work if the tiger doesn't see you, or the tiger doesn't smell you. Because if the tiger sees you and smells you and wants to chase you, it will. And sometimes just the idea of something running, like, when you have a little cat in your house, they always are chasing around something because it's what they do. So just out of instinct, the tiger may just chase you just to play with you and then smack you. You see those paws? They're huge. And then just hit you. And that one little hit's enough to kill you. So I want you to think about that for a second, because we're going to come right back to that tiger that just knocked you on the ground. So hang on for a second. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back and talk about slaying those dragons. All right, here we go. So you 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 saw the tiger in the jungle. You decided to run, and the tiger chased you. And oops. See, because here's the thing about a tiger: it can outrun you. It can outswim you. So if there's something there that you can jump in and swim away, it can jump in and swim better than you can. If you try to climb a tree, it can climb trees better than you too. So running's not a good idea. Okay, so then what do? Well, if you stand there, and stare the tiger in the eyes, now you put the choice on the tiger. Because you've made your choice. You're going to stand your ground, stare at the tiger, and kind of lean forward. Now the tiger has to decide. If the tiger's hungry, if the fear is real, it's going to eat you. If it's real. Okay? I mean, if you jump out of an airplane without a parachute, there's a good chance you're not going to make it. Okay? So that's a good fear. Don't jump out of an airplane without your parachute. So if the tiger's hungry, and it's going to eat you. But if the tiger's not hungry, which is 99.999% of the time, it's going to walk away. But you're never going to know unless you stop running. I was just talking to somebody just a little while ago. He called me up and said he was worried about work tomorrow. So we went over what's going to happen tomorrow. We went through each thing. And I kind of laughed about everything that he had planned for tomorrow. And then we talked about some other topic, and we got off of it. And I said, now go have a good night's sleep, and I'll talk to you tomorrow after you have a great day. That was it. But that's all he needed to hear, because he's going to have a great day tomorrow. Because it's not a real fear. It's an anxiety about things that are potentially going to happen. But my goal is to get him to worry or to focus on today, because he had a great day today. I mean, if you focus, and that's one of our strategies here, but if you focus on how great a day, I mean, just stay in a moment. We're going to come to that. Stay in a moment. So by staring at the tiger in the eyes, quit running from your fear. Running from your fear never works. Fear always wins. Always. You can run all day long. Guess what? At the end of the day, you're still going, man, I wish I could do something about that person who I've been running from for 20 years. Because you're always thinking about them. Instead of just leaning in, making a phone call, dealing with it. Whatever it might be. I don't know what it is. It's your fear. I've got my own to worry about. So, first thing we have to learn how to do is stop running. Lean in and stare that dragon, stare that fear in the eye, just like Greg did this weekend. He could have ran from it for another month, 2 months, 3 months, a year. I don't know when he was going to be ready. Maybe he would never tell himself he was going to be ready. But I gave him the opportunity to do it, and he slayed all those dragons in the eye. And now he knows. Now instead of worrying about what he can't do, he's worrying about how to get better at it. That's pretty cool, right? He's worried about how I can get better at it, not what I'm afraid of. All right, so how do most people deal with fear and anxiety and all this stuff by trying to suppress it, which is technically running. Some, obviously worry, which is just anxiety. We worry about it, hoping that that's going to do something about it, but doesn't do anything except make our day worse. Some people jump into what I call my crazy 8. It's like a sideways 8, and they just keep going around and around like that. They get angry about it, then they get depressed about it, then they get angry about it, then they get depressed about it. And then they try to jump out of that for a little while and get some rest because they're so exhausted from running and fighting, that they numb their way out of it through alcohol, drugs, bad behavior, whatever it might be, until they get tired of being numb, and then they come right back into it, and they're pissed off and worried, pissed off and worried. It's a never-ending battle. Some of you feel that way. I promise you, you do. We've all been there. We've all been in that crazy 8, right? We've all been there. Because what generally happens is we jump from one fear to the next. You know, I guarantee you, you're probably not feeling like you're enough just at work. There's a good chance you feel that way at home too. So you're never enough. Where does it end? Where does it stop? I mean, hey, look, you know, I don't want to get too depressing here, but the suicide rate isn't off the charts for just because we're just suicidal people. No, it's because we have these real insecurities about ourselves. We have these real fears that we've built up in ourselves that we're never going to be loved, that we're never going to find that special person, or we're never going to be able to be in a relationship because we're constantly in and out of relationships, or we're never going to be enough of a manager at work, or we're never going to get to that higher position, or whatever it might be. We all have that. It's crazy what we do to our thoughts. But so how can we start to deal with these stuff, these insecurities, these dragons in our lives? I like to start off with number 1 in my world. This is my number 1. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for your past, for all of it. For all of it. Because you need a clean slate. So you need to forgive yourself for whatever you're beating yourself up about, whatever you're worried about. Forgive yourself for it. If you had a bad relationship, so what? Forgive yourself. I mean, I think you should forgive the other person too, because forgiveness is for you, but you got to start with yourself. Because a lot of us will continue to beat up ourselves about bad relationships, whether it be intimate relationships, relationship with your kids, work, managers, doesn't matter. So forgive yourself. That's where it starts. And then forgive others too. Carrying around that burden is just a train wreck. It's hard. I'm not saying it's easy. Nothing I'm going to say right now is going to be easy to do. But we're talking about a dragon here, guys. We're not talking about a bunny rabbit. Hey, we're going to slay. If that topic would have been slay the bunny rabbits in your life, everybody would have started laughing and going, I got plenty of those. My life's a piece of cake too. But it's not about slaying bunny rabbits. It's about slaying dragons. Dragons are those mean, nasty monsters that you are sitting there with in the bottom of that big, deep, dark pit in your life that you can't get away from, and you're waiting for somebody to come down there with you, gird up your loins, it's a biblical term, and take out your sword and slay this sucker and climb out of that damn pit. That's what you're waiting for. Because these things are scary. These monsters in your life are real. So you got to forgive yourself. And on top of that, you got to love yourself. You have to love you. A great book I just recommend it twice this week again, was Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It by Ravel Cavalcant. Great book. Great book. But it's true. You have to love yourself like your life depends on it. And you have to make the changes in your life that you want to make. Good grief. How many people are constantly trying to make changes in their life because other people told them they needed to? Now, it's one thing if you have a mentor or coach or somebody you're working with, a trusted advisor that's giving you advice on maybe how to dress. I have a friend that he's a good guy. I was going to some meetings. He goes, "Hey, Arnie, just an idea. We might want to do this." And he gave me some pointers. I appreciated it. Okay. But if you're doing things just because you're trying to find love or perform for love, that probably won't work. But if you're doing things because you want to maybe make somebody feel good because it's something that you want to do, not because they are demanding you do it or they won't love you. There's a fine line there, and it's critical because most people are waiting for somebody. I used to hear this all the time, drove me crazy. Well, I'm going to find me somebody who's going to straighten me out. I'm going to find me somebody who's going to make me right. No, you're not. You're going to find somebody that you're going to resent. Because until you're ready to make those changes, you're not going to do it. You may act like you're going to do it. You may start it. You may make fun of somebody. Say, I wish I had my lady here taking care of me and making sure I didn't, drink myself to death. It just doesn't work that way. But we've seen too many books and movies written about that nonsense, right? Just doesn't work that way. It works when you want to do it. It works when you want to make those changes and not what others want, because you'll resent other people in your life if they're constantly telling you what you need to work on. That's why one of the first things that I have any couple do, and it's, I call it a business meeting, which is why it works at business too, is every week you have a meeting and you put on the table all the things that are bothering you, the little things, little resistances, little things that just irritate you. And you put them on the table and you work through them. And then the following week that your team or you or whoever it might be that you're discussing with, work through them. And then you do the same thing the following week. And if the following week you work through these, or you've done this, and they said, well, here's a list of things that are bothering me. And if it's the same list, you got a problem, right? Because no one's trying. Well, they might be trying, but maybe the other person's standards are a little high, and that could be on your list. Get it? Because you get to make a list too. So maybe their expectations are too high for you, but on the other side of it, if you're not trying, that's on you. But now you know, and then you try to get these things to balance out and work out, and it takes time. It doesn't happen in a week. It doesn't happen in 2 weeks. It doesn't happen in a month. I'll tell you flat out, it happens in about 3 months. That's when changes happen. None of this 21-day stuff. 21 days is a nice start. But changes happen in about 3 months. So those are the things you can do when you're ready to do them. And then the next thing is practicing self-love. Here we are back to that love thing again. So what does that mean? Nurture yourself. One of the things I always tell people, and the two ladies I was talking to yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. And one, I had talked to this before. I said, go do something this weekend to nurture yourself. What does that mean? Exercise, eating better, meditation, prayer. These are all things that we can do to nurture this temple that we have here. Instead of beating it up with drugs and alcohol and bad behavior and goofy stuff. Get out in nature, walk, and, listen to music. Good grief, there's so many different things we can do to nurture ourselves. You got to find what works for you. But if you're not doing that, then it leaves this brain open to worry, anxiety. And that dragon creeps in there again, doesn't it? And that dragon roars and consumes you. And you start to run again. We're going to learn how to stop running. We're going to learn how to gird up our loins, take out our sword, and slay that dragon. We're going to take that dragon's head right off. And then we're going to figure out how to get out of that pit that you're in. That's going to take work. It's going to take a few months of steady work, but you got to want to do it. It's important. I think it's important. So nurture yourself, practicing self-love. How about staying in the moment? We've been kind of talking about that. Staying in the moment, which is so important. Because if you stay in the moment, you're gonna have starting the day you stay in the moment. Then when you look back on yesterday, that's a pretty good day, right? Because you had a good day. You focused on today. And then then you can look forward to, then when you get to tomorrow and focus in the moment, then you look back on today and it's another good day. See how it works? By focusing on today. Staying in the moment makes tomorrow better and yesterday a great memory. It's really that simple. I mean, it really is that simple because we get so wound up on things we cannot control. You cannot control other people. You cannot control your boss at work. You cannot control your partner. You can barely control your freaking dog. And your dog will do anything for you as long as you feed it. But the key here is loving yourself, understanding yourself, doing what you need to do to make yourself better. Before you know it, all those things are gonna make a difference in how you treat other people as well. Because see, if you're treating yourself good, better, that's gonna pour out into other people around you. It really will. But if you treat yourself like crap, there's a good chance you're gonna treat other people like crap. I hate to say that, but it's true. And some of you might be in a relationship like that. It's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling because, hurting people hurt people. Am I right? You ever heard that before? It's true. So if you're somebody that's hurting because you have these real fears, you have these real insecurities in your life, you're not good enough. Maybe you need to lose some weight. Maybe you need to gain some weight. Maybe you need a better job. Maybe you need whatever it might be. I don't know what it is in your life. Maybe you're unhappy with your relation. I don't know. And you're just angry or bitter or sad. There's a good chance you're going to take it out on other people. And sometimes what you end up doing is what I call throwing up. So when someone says, "Say, Arnie, what's happening?" Ugh. And you're like, whoa. And they go, "Holy crap. Remind me not to ask him how he's doing again." Because I did that yesterday. I did that yesterday with somebody I've grown up with. And I love him to death. I really do. But he's struggling. He's had some health problems. And because he's worrying about stuff. I get it. But nothing you can do about it. There's really not. No one else is worrying but him. And he literally threw up on me for 15 minutes. I was looking at my watch because I had to get to a phone call. But he threw up for 15 minutes. Now, I love him. What do you think will be the next time I see him? Am I going to ask him how things are? No. I'm going to try to control the situation by complimenting and by changing the topic as fast as possible. Because I don't want to give him the opportunity to throw up, even though he's looking for that. And maybe that's good, maybe that's not, but let me give you a pointer. You are not responsible for other people's feelings. Can't be. But most try to. We've all been in those relationships where we try to assume the responsibility for other people's feelings. It's a bad place to be because there's not a doggone thing you can do about it. Nothing. Nothing you can do about it. So my advice is don't do that. But let me throw one more thing at you here. Yeah, because I'm going to run into I want to do a couple more things as well. Journal. I'm a big fan of journaling. Some people don't like it. That's fine, but you don't have to make this hard. But, journal the day. I always start out with 3 things. And if you can just journal the day, 3 things that happen in your day and highlight the good. I don't write down all the bad stuff. I've just, over the years, just stopped doing it. It's bad. And I could have, but I didn't. I just stopped. And I just highlight the good. Highlight the good. And then I do some prayer chants in there, and I write down certain things that I've come up with over the years. And that's my way of journaling. It's a page. I write a page every day. I've done it now for I don't know how many years. So, I'll change. Every few months, I'll change something, add something new, take something away. Doesn't matter. Okay? So journaling helps you to see the good from yesterday. And at the end of the year, you can look back at all those good things that happened in your life. And it's pretty cool. It really is pretty cool. I'm going to go over a couple things here. When you're dealing with insecurities, like I said earlier in the show, you're dealing with intrapersonal inside. But sometimes when we're dealing with stuff on the outside, people, what are things can we do to control that? What are different things we can do to react better, respond better? One thing we can do is when we're in those situations where we're dealing with real insecurity about what other people might say or think about us, is to push back against that voice in our head that says, I'm not good enough. Push back. Say, yes, I am. As a Christian, I always say, I'm the child of the Most High God. That makes me kind of special, doesn't it? But whatever you come up with in your head, you say that. That puts you on the same platform as no one's hired me. No one on this planet is. And if you give people what I call authority bias over you, you have relegated yourself to a low position in life. And I'm not saying be higher than anybody else. I'm saying the same. You're equal. And you got to focus on that. Be prepared. One of the things I used to always do, especially when I was networking, is have questions. I had 10 questions. Because you know what I learned is that everybody's favorite topic is themselves. So if I'm in a situation around people that I'm worried about interacting with, if I just ask them questions about themselves, the evening is a success. You're going to be the star of the event. But don't wait around for someone to ask you questions, because they won't, because they are talking about their most important subject, themselves. So if you encourage them to talk about themselves, you're going to be very popular. Get it? It's simple, but hard to do, because we all want to talk about ourselves. Don't do that. Talk about them. Remember, this is about strategy of dealing with other people, which addresses your insecurity about being good enough to be in the presence of other people. Don't avoid these situations. When you get invited to an event, a party, a gathering, don't run away from those. Get in there. This is your chance to practice those questions. This is a good chance for you to practice pushing back against that voice in your head. This is a chance for you to learn to be prepared. This is a chance for you to learn how to lean into these fears. Don't run away. Doggone it. Lean into it. And lastly, be realistic. I mean, if you're at an event, a gathering, whether it's a church event or a social event or business event, don't go there thinking you're going to be the hit of the party. How about if you just meet 1 or 2 people? That's pretty realistic. Meet 1 or 2. Somebody from a different department, from that you never met before. Say hi, ask them some questions about themselves, their family, what they do. Don't expect them to ask you any questions about you. I promise you, it'll make a difference. And I promise you start doing some of these things, those dragons in your life, you're going to start chopping their heads off. You're going to start slaying those dragons. And it's going to make a big difference in your life, because you're not going to be worried about out there performing for other people to earn their love and to sitting around worried that you're not good enough, because you are. All your wonderful, amazing people, and you've got just as much talent as anybody else out there, but you got to believe it. Because if you don't believe it, what makes you think other people are going to believe it? You have to believe it. And if you love yourself, you don't need anybody else to love you, because you love yourself. That's how you slay dragons in your life. All right, guys. This is Coach Arnie with another episode of Health, Love, and Life. I love you guys. Those are my contact information. Feel free to give me a holler anytime, and we can chat. And if you got some dragons in your life, let's talk about it. Love you guys. Bye.